around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, bet you this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, in this art he is king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping a track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Hardest part of the ring, back with another apron bump, and yes, the invasion is still going on. This never-ending cocksucker of a storyline feels like it will never end. And, you know, we do talk about this in the podcast. You know, in all reality, there are storylines out there that have lasted longer. Because if you think about it, like the true invasion, like May-ish to November, that's what, 6 months? Still a very long storyline, especially with the resources that they had and the way they approached it. But fuck, man, it just feels like it's dragging. It feels like, I don't mean to come out the gates fucking negative about that shit, but Jesus, tap dancing Christ, what an awful. It's funny, you know, you can, you know, if you've been listening along to my Attitude Era series, and as we've been going chronologically through all of these pay-per-views, you know, Invasion, I was like, I was pretty optimistic, right? I was like, you know, this storyline isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I mean, we got some good things out of it. It felt like, you know, I'm like sitting there comparing it to Retribution, right? And I'm like, hey, they're better than Retribution or stuff like that, right? And then SummerSlam comes along, and it's like, that was a pretty good show. SummerSlam 2001, it's definitely a show I'd recommend. Solid wrestling. Then we have Unforgiven, and it's like, okay, I think we're just kind of spinning our wheels a little bit. But I mean, we're almost done. But wait, nope. Just when you think we're almost done, you just throw in another pay-per-view in there for no fucking reason. But yeah, I think it's very obvious that Survivor Series, you know, once the whole, for anybody that isn't aware, it was initially intended that WWE and WCW were going to kind of be like the Raw and SmackDown. Two different brands, but under the same umbrella, essentially. But in kayfabe, they would compete against each other, much like Raw and SmackDown will in a few months from now. But once that kind of, you know, didn't really take off, and they pivoted their storyline premise to kind of have a more invasion kind of feel to it. Not a kind of feel. It was an invasion. Once the invasion, quote unquote, really started, I think it's obvious that the ultimate goal was a Survivor Series culmination. You know, a 5-on-5 WWF versus the Alliance. Do I think they knew what those 5-on-5 teams would be? No, I do not. Do I think that they knew how this whole thing would pan out? No, because they are clearly changing things from week to week. And we get into that in the podcast. So, but yes, like I'm saying, so if you haven't listened to my previous Attitude Era Invasion pay-per-view reviews, very easy to do. You can just go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab, click on that, and you'll see a whole bunch of different series and categories of shows that I do. Go ahead and click on Attitude Era, and boom, it'll give you this episode, you know, Unforgiven 01, SummerSlam, Invasion, fucking Backlash, all that shit, right? King of the Ring. If that's what wets your asshole, then do that, or whistle, or whatever the saying is. Go for it. Be a doll. And why don't you leave a rating while you're there, huh? A little rating, a little review ski for old Hardy. And then, but yeah. Really fun episode for you guys today. Brought back on JD from the Red Leaf Retrocast. You've heard him before on a previous ROH episode, as well as I believe it was Slamboree 94. Really good guest, really good time with him. Really knowledgeable guy. You can check him out at redleafretrocast.blogspot.com. You can also follow him on social media at BowlingJD. You can listen on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Really good source for if you're into Japanese wrestling, Joshi wrestling, gets in a lot of AEW as well, but also video games, anime, pop culture type stuff. Really unique podcast over there. Go check out his Patreon as well. Really unique stuff from old JD over there. So check him out and check us out here for No Mercy 2001 with myself and JD from the Red Leaf Retrocast. So yeah, man, it's well known that you loved the Invasion. Go ahead and talk about like why you loved it so much.
Oh, well, as a WCW fan growing up, obviously,
yeah,
this just hit me right in the nostalgia, every bit of it.
It gave you every bit of WCW that you remember, right?
Oh, I mean, when I think WCW, I think of obviously No Mercy 2001.
Right, you think of like Test and Ivory, people like that, right?
Well, yeah, and the Dudley Boys. The man. Well, I'm glad you brought up Test because he bleeds WCW.
He does. He bleeds the whatever color. They've had all the colors, I think, haven't they?
Oh my god.
But yeah, man, so actually, because you messaged me a while ago, I think it was when you were listening to my SummerSlam episode 2001, and you said you disagreed with some of the stuff I was saying. Was that like general Invasion stuff, or was that more like the specifics of the show?
It's not so, like, we'll get into obviously the matches on No Mercy 2001 because it's not really the wrestling itself that's much of an issue.
Yeah,
it's the booking of yeah. You mentioned just a general overlook of how the Invasion went down, how the kind of changing of the guard, if you will, went through the phasing out of WCW. You really haven't gotten into the issue of the McMahons being basically a focus of the Invasion rather than the wrestlers themselves.
Yeah, so this is kind of how I've approached it as I've been watching this era back. Because like I know how it ends up. I know that they don't get the huge stars that WCW had. I know the McMahon involvement and like how it's like that stuff is just kind of like passively like ironed into my brain, unfortunately. So it's almost like I don't want to say I give it a pass, but I almost like when I'm watching this, I almost like grade it at a scale a little bit. I almost try to look at it glass half full. But man, like as I'm, because the Invasion, it started off like, yeah, the McMahon involvement was fucking dumb as shit. But like, it felt like an invasion just based on the sheer amount of people from WCW and ECW. Now, of course, they're the Hugh Morrises and the Chavo Guerreros of the companies and the Just Incredibles and all that shit. But like, it felt like it had potential even with the resources they had in the beginning. Do you agree with that or no?
No, I don't. I don't agree with that at all. Because I did. 2001. Yeah, 13 years old. As a 13-year-old who grew up watching WCW, saw all the stars, and the Invasion. So it starts out, with closure of WCW, and it's Shane McMahon has bought WCW. And it finishes off, it's got this big sting, Ric Flair, go away. And it's not even the fact that McMahon was a cheapskate and didn't bring in any of the stars, right? Because there was plenty of what the fans wanted, and the two names that came up the most during the time, and myself included, is nobody wanted to see Hogan, Nash, and company because they had just been so devastating to the WCW fan base. But it was all about DDP, whom they did get, Scott Steiner, who they chose to pass on. Ric Flair and Goldberg were probably the two names that stuck out the most to people. And all WWF and McMahon decided to do was just not do anything at all with it. The invasion, what was it, like a month went by after that, and there wasn't a mention of WCW. And I think it was 4 weeks after that. Finally, Lance Storm comes out and super kicks, and that was the only thing on the show.
Yeah, and that wasn't even really like a WCW invasion kind of thing. That was kind of just Lance Storm debuting.
Right. It was just so poorly done. And then over time, then you start getting a lot of the guys in, and sure, it's a lot of the young guys that WCW was trying to push at the end. Your Mike Awesomes, your Canyons, your Lance Storm is a great example. And myself as a fan, when I'm seeing this all unfold, is I'm going off my memory of what I was going through as a kid. I'm like, okay, so these guys are going to, beat. There's going to be a tag team, Stasiak and Sean O'Haire, not the greatest guys in the world, but they could beat, the Hardy Boys one time or something. But week after week, I'm just watching all these dudes lose over and over again and put in shitty storylines. The main one being DDP as a stalker.
Right. Yeah. And I also want to make this really clear. When I say that it had potential, I'm kind of like comparing like where they were in early 2001 to where they are now. And what is it, October? And like, I agree, man, it's just like you said it, they had DDP. They had one of the biggest stars that WCW had. And they put him in a feud with The Undertaker. You could argue that, okay, that's fine. But then just the way they handled it, it was like, it went nowhere. He got his ass kicked right away. Like his first introduction to the in-ring, whatever it was. Then they had a cage match with Canyon and Kane involved. But again, it was just a one-sided beatdown on DDP and Canyon. And now at this point, DDP's doing yoga with fake teeth. So it's like, and that's just like representative. Because you brought up even Stasiak and O'Haire. No, it was Sean O'Haire and Chuck Palumbo. They were a tag team.
Oh, Palumbo, yes.
Yeah, but Stasiak's there. He's pretty much falls under this category too, of young guys, young talented guys that they can build up, that were starting to get built up at the end of WCW. But then, like, speaking of O'Haire and Palumbo specifically, they've been completely off the shows since they were in the tag title picture like a few months ago. Or DDP's pretty much been off screen. He's just been doing like little vignettes backstage. Stasiak's pretty much gone. He's not even doing the funny like running into wall shit anymore. He's gone.
Yeah, Stone Cold's not going, hey, go get him, kid. You're gonna do great. And he's, who the hell is that guy?
That's the thing too. Like specifically, like at this time period, you can even see it in the characters themselves that they don't care anymore. Like,
well, why would they when the two people from WCW that have the most screen time and the most story and the most care are the women, Tori and Stacy Keibler, and we know why.
Yep. Yeah.
So and it's no wonder that as a WCW fan, I can't imagine you being an ECW fan and watching Stephanie McMahon constantly in their little thing, and she comes out to that music. Could you imagine? Like, I wasn't a fan of that, but I can just can't even fathom how they were frothing at the mouth and puking when they hear Stephanie McMahon coming out to the ECW theme. Right?
It's pretty cool, right? It was pretty badass.
I mean, you want to talk about just not even trying to feel the fan base. The McMahons are in there. WWF guy after another, switching sides so often. Stone Cold changing from face back to heel and then a swerve once again. It's so inconceivable with how much they botched this. And if you weren't a fan of WWF, like a good chunk of the people were, or even a WWF fan that that sees obviously an invasion where you own all the new contracts and wrestlers of this other organization. You own them now, and you see all these dream matchups. Oh, Booker T, he can face The Rock, which obviously they get to, but that's way later.
Yeah, and even Booker T's kind of been a jabroni as far as how he was booked.
Horrible. And so many storylines were just dropped and given up on. And I remember it's not the one in Tacoma that's very famous. Or maybe it is. There's another one where the ECW gets thrown in there, and then it becomes the Alliance, and they turn around and change sides. It was like a 2-year storyline in one night. It was just so jarring to me as a fan growing up. And I'm like, what the fuck is... I mean, it's cool, I guess, but I grew up in the South. I didn't know what ECW was for the longest time. I had no comprehension of it all.
Yeah. Because I grew up during this time too. I was, I guess, nine or so at this point, and I knew WCW and ECW existed, but I didn't know. As I was watching this, I didn't know any of these guys. And it's like, because when I was first watching this, right, maybe like the Invasion pay-per-view, I was trying to be optimistic. I was trying to look at it glass half full. I was like, okay, this isn't quite as bad as I remember. It's bad. There's a lot of bad aspects to it, but it's kind of, I can see the entertainment value in it. But as the months go on, and by the way, this lasts like way longer than I remember. This is like most of the year, if not all of it, really. And man, it's
May to November.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like my main thing here is that it's no longer the coalition of WCW and ECW versus WWF. It's just the alliance versus the non-alliance. So it's really just normal faction warfare at this point.
Right. It feels like the Invasion is just totally dropped altogether. So it's October 21st at this point. And by the way, I was at the SmackDown after 9/11. I was at that one in Houston, Texas, where all that went down. So that happened kind of smack in the middle of this. And for one night that what are you going to do for there? But just for a context of, I was a fan. I was going to WWF shows at this time. I was going to house shows and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
June, July, August, September. It's only been 5 months. 5 since it truly started. An invasion storyline. An invasion. No, just think about that. Think about that. Just in that time frame. That's not a long time.
Why do you say that?
Well, so they do monthly pay-per-views. This is now the 5th one. No, it would be the 4th one only, right?
So they had Invasion, SummerSlam, Unforgiven, and This Is No Mercy.
Yeah. This is only the 4th pay-per-view. And they couldn't even get this far with a full-on invasion. How pathetic is that? How bad could you possibly be to not get over one WCW guy? One. They couldn't do it.
I'll disagree with that.
Okay.
And my answer is our first match, the Hurricane.
Oh, that's where you were going.
And Lance Storm versus the Hardys. Now, the Hurricane, now, hear me out. Hurricane's fucking awesome at this point. Do you agree or disagree?
There are guys that the crowd kind of pops for and they enjoy and they laugh at, and Hurricane's definitely one of them. The former 3-count himself.
Hurricane is so over at this point. So is Tajiri. Like stupid ass people, like not that Tajiri's stupid, but like lower tier guys like that are somehow like so over, and it happened organically. Even RVD even. I don't think they planned for RVD to be. We'll get to it, but just to say it generally, I have there's no way you're going to convince me that they thought RVD was going to be competing in the main event for the WWF title in the beginning of the storyline.
Oh no, and there's a huge story behind like what RVD was representing, the egos in the locker room of the time. And you can just like, even without knowing all of the insider stuff, just seeing as a fan how all this played out what confidence would you be of any sort of fan to not have confidence that RVD is going to get to he's going to reach a certain ceiling, much like Jericho for a lot of times. We'll get to Jericho later, who, I mean, how hard is it? Like, it's all coming back to me.
He molded into that WWE formula RVD did eventually, because he was so. Yeah. Because I remember RVD, when I think of RVD in WWE, I think of like 2003, 2004, 2005, when he was more or less, greatest hits guy. He wasn't having these classics with guys in general on pay-per-views. He wasn't even booked as like a main eventer really until he won the title at One Night Stand against John Cena. So it's really interesting to see him in his early stages when he's just so organically over, and he still has at least some semblance of the momentum he had in ECW. But
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the crazy weird Stone Cold video package building up the main event to start off the show, and then it transitions into click click boom.
You didn't like Saliva?
Oh my god, I cracked up with all the music on the show,
dude. I'll say this with zero irony. This is like my favorite era of theme songs for pay-per-views.
There were some themes I heard, and I was like, man, I have no memory of that, like Stone Cold's. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, nobody remembers Venomous, but he used it. I promise you.
Yeah, in a world where Stone Cold grasps his title and puts his fingers across it slowly, he is a madman. You will not take my title, says Stone Cold. And it goes, hits the fireworks. Pew! Click, click, boom. I died.
My favorite part of that like opening package was when, they were doing like the black and white zoom ins on all three guys in the main event. And they mentioned how Kurt Angle won the title at the last pay-per-view, but he got it taken away from him soonly after. And then this video package, Kurt has it on his shoulder, and then the camera zooms in on his face, and then it zooms out, and the title's no longer on his shoulder.
Oh,
and he's looking at it like, oh my god, he's like all like confused and just bewildered at how
I miss things like this in my wrestling. This is it's kind of hokey, but it definitely gets the point across.
It fit the time.
Yeah. I really miss those kind of, because it's building up your main event to be something very important. Now, I will say, and I definitely felt it on this show, all these fucking titles going on. And It just feels like every single person has one, and they're going for a second, and none of them mean shit, because it's either there's too many or they change just constantly. And I remember that about the Invasion, where it's like every week a title would change, and it just makes everything else feel so much less important.
Yeah. Believe me, we'll get into that in the show, because I have some things about how stupid the titles are. But
now, jog my memory here, but Mighty Molly and Ivory are on the outside. I don't remember why Ivory was there. But this is right after Mighty Molly gets kidnapped and brainwashed by our superhero, right?
Sure is.
Yeah, because Spike Dudley got his leg broken or some shit, and they went, forget this whole Romeo and Juliet thing. It's all about brainwashing women.
Yeah, he got tossed. There's that kind of famous spot where he gets tossed out by the Dudley boys, from the ring to the outside through a table.
Yeah.
I think they might have shown it on the show.
How dare such pure-hearted Spike Dudley wants to get laid. How dare he? Brother Devon, get him.
For real, man. You can't have that. Spike Dudley's probably packing, though, if you really think about it.
He has to be, right?
What would your guess be? Ballpark.
8.3 inches.
That's weirdly specific. We're going to move on. Hardy Boys.
Wait, you don't like my guess?
I hate your guess. WCW Tag Team Titles.
Why, what are you packing?
8.3.
8.3?
WCW.
Aha, that's why it all makes sense.
You get them confused. I sent them both to you, and you probably got them mixed up. So we got the WCW Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys.
I'm sorry, who?
The WCW Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys.
The Hardy Boys, right? That's what you said.
Yeah.
WCW.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
That's good, right?
Yes. Of course. That makes sense.
especially when you consider that the WWF Tag Team Champions are the Dudley Boys.
Yes, of course. That's exactly who I think of. The ECW Tag Team Legends, Dudley Boys.
Right. You know, the WCW Tag Team titles. You know, before this, it was Booker T and Test. Before that, it was Undertaker and Kane. Before that, you know, these WCW Tag Team Legends.
Yes, not
great lineage.
Well, to be fair, WCW didn't have much of a tag division after 1995.
Yeah, might as well have been. Yeah, it's pretty much tag titles A and tag titles B.
So I will give a pass, but it is comical nonetheless.
It's funny. It's like, who cares really in the end, but it's just funny. So yes, the Hardys are taking on the Hurricane and Lance Storm, and I'm convinced that these two are teaming simply because they're both named after storms.
I think you're right on the money.
There it is.
Yeah. That is exactly what a Vince McMahon would think.
Wait a minute. We got a Hurricane. We got a Lance Storm.
I'm
Team
shocked,
them together.
Yeah, I'm shocked they didn't like rename Lance Storm into like Lance Lightning.
It's never too late.
It's never
too late. We saw the Hurricane a few days ago. It's never too late.
Oh my God. Did you realize how many people that were on this show that we saw at the Royal Rumble?
Right. A lot of these guys. You got Jericho. He wasn't at the Rumble, obviously, but like Jericho's still going. And
he was on TV. So if we just count how many we saw wrestling in the last week, how's that?
Yeah, I'm like scrolling through Tori Wilson, all these people. But yeah, man, it's like Hurricane and Lance Storm. Like it's a hilarious pairing. But Lance Storm, I forgot how prominent Lance Storm was in the Invasion, because for one, he was the Intercontinental Champion for a little bit. And two, he had like one or two world title matches on TV, which I had no recollection of. But that was pretty much his peak, because right now he's a tag team guy, and that's pretty much where he stays for the rest of his WWE in-ring tenure.
Yeah, and it just seems so weird in hindsight, because as a kid in WCW, Lance Storm was for a time made out to be a big deal, and then egos and whatnot got in the way, and WCW got in the way of themselves, and then when the Invasion happened, I remember friends and I going, "Oh shit, Lance Storm's the one that invaded first, or he showed up on WWF. Maybe he can have that kind of intercontinental, Jericho ride." Because they're not too different between the two, and when you get to the history of the two, in hindsight, you're like, oh yeah, not too different at all. And it's like they didn't even try.
No, I mean, like I said, he had an IC title run, faced Edge at a pay-per-view, and then he kind of just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah, and it just never made sense to me. And people will go, oh well, they gave him the whole be serious for a moment. He could never, but he was over in WCW, and that was hard to fucking do.
Right. I mean, he was fairly, I'm not going to say he was super over in WWE, but that early stuff he was doing in the Invasion, I mean, he was getting reactions, especially like you said, the "can I be serious for a moment" stuff, and "this is no place for tomfoolery" or whatever his other lines were.
The writing is always top notch.
It's good. He probably wrote it.
Yeah, I'm sure. The well-spoken Lance Storm wrote tomfoolery. Yeah.
But yeah, the match itself is fine. I mean, it's an opening match. It's not like going to be anything to write home about. But yeah, towards the end, or I guess this was more in the beginning, the spot that popped me was where so Molly is ringside, and as we all know, she is Mighty Molly at this point. So it's kind of Hurricane's protege.
I mean, you could say there were a lot of boobs ringside.
There were at least six. And so Hurricane's down in the middle of the ring. The other Hardy that's legal is on the outside. Molly gets in the ring, puts on Hurricane's cape, which essentially makes Hurricane Hulk up. And then he gets to the top rope and dives to the outside. Like, it's that like silly shit that got him over. People were loving it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he definitely got over to the crowd to the best he can for an undercard guy.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with being an undercard guy. Yeah, pretty solid match. Hurricane, obviously, Shane Helms, good friends with both the Hardy Boys. A lot of chemistry here. a lot of unique reversals. I particularly liked when the Hardys were going for poetry in motion and onto Hurricane, but Hurricane like ducked out of the way and did like a cradle onto the guy that was on his knees. Like I feel like I've never seen that before, but little stuff like that in this match was really good. All technically sound wrestlers, but towards the end, all the boobs get involved. So we have.
That's how I'd phrase it as well. Yeah, lots of boobs involvement.
I think that's the PC way to describe it. Molly Holly tries to interfere, but Lita gets in and stops her, gives her a spear and cat fight, etc. But then Ivory takes out Lita, but then Jeff Hardy grabs Ivory and gives her the old low blow leg drop deal. Don't know the logistics of that, but that's what happened. And then
I'm sure getting kicked in your vagina does indeed feel uncomfortable at the very least.
It's probably not the best thing, I would assume. But then Lita throws her vagina at Lance Storm and gives him a Hurricane Rana, and then Twist of Fate to Hurricane.
In the middle of a half crab, by the way.
A damn good half crab. I love a good.
Well,
Lance
I mean,
Storm
he kind of fell on the step over, but
No.
Legina. Lita's vagina really took care of that half crab situation. You don't want crabs in your vagina.
There it is. Okay.
It all rolls together.
We all tie it together. Oh man. Yeah, whatever. Swanton, etc. The Hardys win. Pretty hot crowd in the beginning. And a solid match. What did you think overall?
Yeah, fine wrestling match. I had no issue with the match. I could deal with all the boob involvement, but hey, they were nice to look at the outside.
Do you have something against the boob involvement?
I mean, if I'm involved, it's a different story, but I'm involved here.
Well, don't worry. We have much more boobage later in the show.
There's a lot more boobs later.
Some may say too many, but who knows? That's for you to decide.
The crowd was really weird on this show.
How so?
Well, they started kind of hot with the Hurricane and the Hardys. You know, you had some women screaming, and then as it went on, it felt less, at least up until the Jericho match with The Rock. It just felt like they were just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, there's a certain Intercontinental match where the crowd just really was not into it, and it really took me out of the match. But anyways,
we'll get into that. But before that, we got to talk about some Test and Kane. And so the backstory here, right? Or lack thereof, I guess. So Test, I mentioned this earlier, but so the Undertaker and Kane were the WCW Tag Team Champions. They lost the titles, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe they lost the titles to Booker T and Test, who are a tag team at this point. But then Booker T and Test then lost it to the Hardys due to interference by Undertaker and Kane. So
of course,
the teams
why would someone beat someone clean? That would get them over.
Do you know what year it is? Okay, look at your watch. That doesn't happen here. We don't do that here.
Oh God, tell me about it. They don't do it now.
So yeah, it's literally like, okay, the team of Booker T and Test versus Undertaker and Kane. Let's just split that up into 2 singles matches. So that's basically what we got here. And Booker T and Undertaker is like the main one. And so it's like, okay, you two are left over. Let's just put you in a match together. So that's the layered storyline elements at play here, just so you have the whole backstory. And of course, Test is the alliance, because why wouldn't he be?
Well, the whole story reasoning is there's a mole for WCW, and it's got to be Test. It's not Test. Fucking kick his ass anyways. He joins WCW. I was like, okay.
It's like it might as well have just been Test.
Did you notice something specific on this show?
About what?
That if a quote-unquote WCW guy won, it was actually a guy from WWF that won.
I believe it. It. He's not from WWF. What are you talking about? Test is WCW through and through.
Right. He did say he bleeds WCW.
Did he? I must have missed that part.
I don't know.
Thank God I did.
Maybe my memory banks aren't working properly. I did drink during the show. I don't know if that was clear.
That's probably for the best, honestly.
I definitely needed it. I got myself an extra stiff one for a certain match later.
Yes. But yeah, Test and Kane. It was pretty much what you'd expect from these two. But yeah, okay, so Undertaker and Kane are pretty much a tag team throughout the whole year of 2001. And you lived through this time. Do you think they held each other back by doing that?
No, but I think they buried plenty of people on the way.
I think both can be true.
Well, I mean,
Because-
Undertaker and Kane weren't in the world title program, even though at this point there's 2 world titles. But
Well, Taker had a match at Judgment Day in 2001.
Mhm.
But other than that, yeah, you're pretty much. I mean, they might have something like SmackDown, Raw, TV, world title matches, but yeah, as far as like programs themselves, long-term programs, yeah, they weren't involved at all. But yeah, they just felt like, I don't know, background.
well, I mean, at this point in time, Undertaker still isn't known as a great in-ring guy.
No, not at all. Especially, I mean, to me, and we could talk about it more earlier with Booker T, but I feel like this is probably one of his worst years in ring.
Ooh, I don't know. 1990. Why does 1996 come to mind?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as familiar with like the early mid 90s stuff, but like from what I've seen from his early stuff, it wasn't, I mean, take away like 1990 and all that stuff. But like, as far as like his, this era, can't even think. I guess Ministry of Darkness Undertaker wasn't super great.
I mean, 99 WWF was really bad, just booking and story wise. And they were just getting, I mean, it was Russo. So that kind of is self-explanatory, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
were a lot of angles memorable, and were some things reined in a little bit more? Well, obviously they were, because we saw what Russo's capable of after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, we'll get to Undertaker later. But Test and Kane. So the match itself is like, so Test, they're fighting on the outside. Test goes to he hits Kane with a ring bell. And by the way, folks, this is not a no disqualification match. Test hits Kane with a ring bell, but guess who's the ref? Nick Patrick.
Oh yeah, everybody's favorite ref.
Man, who would have known he would have been a crooked ref, other than his past, 3 or 4 years of being crooked.
Dude.
So Nick Patrick lets it slide.
Saw this guy in the match, and I'm like, what are they going to make him do?
Oh,
and the answer was, well, actually do nothing. He's just going to stand there, and it's going to be commentary going, it's JR. Well, that's a disqualification. Nick Patrick is just standing there. The gall on this man. What a scalded dog. And you got Paul Heyman just going, come on. He didn't see it. He is right there. You're seeing things, JR.
I love JR and Heyman together. I love it.
They are good. They are a good duo. I vastly enjoyed the commentary on the show. There was some verbiage JR used that kind of stuck out to me. One match in particular, he had a phrase that really made me go, excuse me, JR? So not much has changed since 2001.
Not much.
It's definitely not a new thing with JR.
Yeah. Is it the lingerie match?
No, it's not that one, actually.
Well, let's get fucking through this match so we can get to the first ever lingerie match.
Oh.
So,
pants grew tighter just thinking about it.
My pants are already off. So Kane is fighting Test. Kane's boot explodes somewhere in this match for some reason.
No, it was never tied to begin with.
Oh,
he
really?
Came out with no laces in his boots. Those boots are just loose and flopping around like a floppy dick out there the entire time. And it was so distracting. I'm like, there's a lot of feats of strength going on with these two big sweaty men, but his fucking boots are flip-flopping around. It was really distracting.
That is hilarious. I didn't notice it in the beginning, but man, oh man, just in case this couldn't be more of a shit show. I mean, the match itself though wasn't that bad. It was fine. I liked seeing Test out there. Again, Test is another guy that was a lot more prominent than I remember him being. Again, he's getting like a couple world title matches on TV. He's like a big part of the alliance. He's IC champion at some
come on,
point.
Triple H wasn't about to let Test get over.
Oh, he had a ceiling. Don't worry. But while Triple H is gone, we'll let Test play around a little bit.
Dude, imagine if Triple H didn't tear his quad in 2001.
Could have changed a lot of things.
Oh, you think
Could have
WCW
changed.
was buried now? Holy shit. Booker T? No chance in hell.
Don't worry. We'll get to burying Booker T in a few years.
Yeah, good old
We'll get there.
Undertaker was taking that role.
Yeah.
Oh, Triple H, you're out, brother. Don't worry, I got you.
Oh, God. I'll make sure none of these marks get over.
I'll make sure none of these fucking WCW boys get over. Locker room leader, my ass.
Is that your Triple H? Can you just do the rest of the podcast like Triple H?
Well, I was doing a Naito promo impression. Did you see that
That's
Naito
racist.
promo? No. You didn't see the Naito promo that came out?
I did not. Was that recently?
So he's been in this weird ass feud with Honma, and Honma has this incredibly just voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after a show I think it was today actually, Naito just goes to the back and he's staring in the camera. He's just grumbling. He does a whole promo and he's just going and then he walks away.
So he did the old Tim Allen. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's all he did. Oh, you got to see it. It's so funny. It's like the most troll promo you've ever heard.
Well, speaking of Naito, we have Test here. Just as athletic.
Hey, did you see that top rope elbow drop that got booed? I did.
Did it get booed?
Oh yeah, when he went up to the top and the crowd starts booing. It's like,
fuck
yes,
this crowd.
Nothing makes me want to boo more than a top rope dive.
Elbows got heat in this era. I don't know if you remember. A lot of heat for the elbows. Nobody liked that joint of the body, apparently.
Oh,
but yeah, Test gets frustrated at some point. Like you said, he hits an elbow. He's hitting like a lot of power moves on Kane, which are pretty impressive.
He's a big sweaty man. Strong.
He's a big boy, big juicy boy. And so Test, old Andrew Martin there, gets frustrated, brings in a chair.
A blue chair specifically.
A blue chair. It's very important.
It's very important because those are WCW chairs.
Oh, is that a thing?
That is a thing.
Ugh. Can you hear my cats in the background, by the way?
No.
Shut the fuck up! Anyways. So...
My cat lays next to me.
Yeah.
Quiet.
So where are we at here? So Test. Test brings in a chair. Kane steals it from him, but that Nick Patrick, because he's by the books, there's no chairs in this match. After all, it's not a no disqualification match. So Nick Patrick takes the chair away from Kane. Kane sees all the cahoots and all the whatnots. So Kane grabs Nick Patrick by the throat, grabs Test by the throat with his other hand, but then Test gives Kane a low blow and then hits him with the big boot and then the pinfall.
You say low blow, but he clearly missed Kane's testicles.
I don't know what you're talking about. He kicked him right in the mushroom cap.
I saw him boot him in the stomach like a regular gut kick, and Kane went down. Even the replay, it's like he wasn't even close.
He hit him in his big red penis. Test wins, like you said.
How big do you think Kane's penis is?
Man, I think he's probably pretty average, honestly.
Do you think he tucks it up in the waistband? That's why Test was aiming there.
He's probably got a lot of like tilt to it. Like a curve is what I'm looking for.
Think he puts a mask on it?
It's probably just burned, and I mean that's probably the first thing that got burned in his funeral parlor burn.
He's got to keep it protected. No wonder Kane went down the way he did. Yeah, he got booted in the face, and then that was it.
Do you think there's like Kane condoms or any like WWE themed like you put the Macho Man on your dick?
I'm sure there's a Macho Man condom.
I'm not going to Google it. You can Google it if you want. But I'm not putting that in my search history.
I can definitely hear the promo for the commercial right now.
Oh yeah, that kind of shit. Right?
Rib for her pleasure. You're gonna drop the elbow on her.
Snap it to her pussy.
Snap. We're horrible. We're horrible people.
Jesus Christ. But good segue, though.
It is an excellent segue.
The first ever lingerie match. I know it's first ever because they said it every time they mentioned the title of this match.
Dude, the video package for this fucking thing made it feel like I was watching the semi-main event of WrestleMania.
Dude, that was okay, so it's a fucking lingerie match. These chicks come out here in their lingerie as per the title of the match, looking all sexy and sultry and all that. It's all fun. But like you said, it's being built like a blood feud. Like it's like Stone Cold versus Triple H. And they're literally coming out there in underwear. I'm surprised they didn't have like a bed and pillows with it too.
I mean, Stacy Keibler was sure to distract Matt Hardy earlier on the show.
Ah, yes. Can't wait to see where that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun. But Stacy Keibler here is the Duchess of Dudleyville. That's where she's at this point. So that's kind of ties into that because that'll be the match at Survivor Series, the Dudleys versus the Hardys. So planting seeds.
No one's
so
ever seen that before.
No one's ever seen that before. But no one's ever seen a lingerie match either. And that's what we got here at No Mercy 2001. And maybe my favorite part of this match was listening to JR borderline have an aneurysm in commentary.
He was so disgusted with what he was watching.
He didn't like it.
So funny.
I loved hearing him like, oh, this will be certainly unique. Like those kind of lines.
Unique, yeah. that was a line.
This reminds me of the Jack Briscoes and Dory Funks of the like all that tongue-in-cheek stuff was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I don't think it's quite up to that level, JR, but I appreciate the attempt.
Well, that was before the match. He didn't know how it was going to pan out. Okay, it could have been.
Yeah, it turns out it panned out like Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero.
Something like that. But even hold on, I'm gonna let my cat in here. It's fucking pissing me off.
I heard the cat that time. That's really funny.
What do you
just
want?
A lot of meows, and I think the cat's getting a little horny just talking about lingerie all the time.
He's already angry at his ballless sack. But anyways, speaking of ballless sacks, I don't even know. So this match, like, we're making fun of it, but there was more wrestling in it than I expected there to be. I mean,
it's very bizarre.
It was like I said, I literally expected, because they did this later in the later years, they would literally have like a bed in the middle of the ring with pillows. That's what I expected in this match, but it's literally just a wrestling match, but they happen to be wearing lingerie.
I mean, they wrestled better than Carmella last night after Royal Rumble. That's for sure.
Okay, we won't get into that. How dare you, sir? How dare you, sir?
See Carmella's gear? She might as well have been wearing lingerie. Not much different.
It makes her aerodynamic. I don't know what you're talking about.
Aerodynamic to land on her face and skid 3 feet.
Oh God, brutal. But not as brutal as Stacy Keibler pulling out a whip in this match, or whatever you call it.
Cattail whip. Oh, that's some kinky stuff. Love it. Love it.
I'm just going to glaze over the fact that you knew the specific name of it. We're going to pretend that didn't happen.
There is a wrestler in Japan that it's kind of their thing. It's like a dominatrix gimmick. It's quite kinky.
So this is what you watch, huh?
Kinky. Oh, well, I watched that one anyways.
I knew there had to be some incentive. So yeah,
would you take a cattail whip to from Stacy Keibler?
From Stacy Keibler? Yeah, of course.
The things I would let her do to me. Oh my God.
I'd take her out for a nice seafood dinner and then take her home safely.
Seafood, eh?
So to speak.
I'd probably go sushi or something.
Well, speaking of fish, the finish of this match.
It's like a floppy fish.
God damn it. Yeah, whatever. It's a very I don't know, how do you describe
lingerie
it?
Match. We're gonna break it down like Omega Okada. Come on.
Can you please provide the analysis on the build up to the finish? The reversals and counters had?
Yeah, it was like Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero between pins.
Very tight roll up at the end. We'll just say that.
Very tight roll up. Got to show the nice buttocks that that Stacy had. Tori Wilson has some nice thickness to her. Gives her an extra little leverage on that pin. That's what got her the win. It's all physics. There, Mr. Hardest part of the
physics
ring.
Yep, just hard. The ring's hard.
Yeah, definitely the ring's hard.
The ring's hard.
Not bouncy no, anyways.
No, it's turgid. Speaking of turgid, we got ladders here in this next match.
Yeah, ladders.
Turgid ladders. The Intercontinental title match. So Intercontinental title match.
Gotta go over the notes there. It's like, yes, indeed.
No, I just had to finish off real quick. So Edge and Christian are here.
God, it's like a fever dream.
So this is a period of time where I was not watching, like the brief period of time where I was taking a break from wrestling, and so I never got to watch the breakup of Edge and Christian.
And it's phenomenal storytelling.
So I've always heard that it was like a really shitty storyline, and first of all, I'll say a big part of that I think is the invasion and how like out of place it was. Even though Christian ended up becoming a part of the alliance for literally no reason, just to kind of be a heel in this feud. I guess try to incorporate this feud into the invasions in some way.
Yeah, they didn't need to do that.
No, they didn't need to do that at all. And it just felt rushed. I don't know. But I mean, the matches were good, in my opinion. This match specifically, I thought was fucking awesome. This ladder match right here. I thought it was. So when it comes to ladder matches, right? So this is like fresh off of all those TLC matches, the peak car crash, all that shit kind of stuff. And this is now a one-on-one match. So you obviously can't have that exact same style. And we just saw a match I think it was on the SummerSlam. It was RVD versus Jeff Hardy ladder match, which that was kind of a car crash, but a little more slower of a pace. This was even more slower of a pace. I'd almost even compare this more to the pace of like a Razor versus Shawn ladder match, but with
definitely slow,
but more modern. But here's the thing though. So it was slow, and I would even argue that maybe even too slow. But when the spots happened, like here's an example. So there was a spot in the match, like towards the end of the match, where Edge and Christian are both climbing the ladder, and the ladder tips over and they fall to the outside of the ring. Now, if that happened at WrestleMania 17, which it probably even did, that would get like little to no reaction from the crowd. But here, like everything meant something, and they were building so that every spot that happened, whether it was, Christian hitting a splash on a ladder, or if it was Edge's spear to Christian while Christian was on the ladder and Edge leaps from the top rope to hit a spear.
Yeah, that was a cool spot.
There were some cool spots in this match, and like I said, it could have been a faster pace, sure, but when those spots happened, the crowd popped hard for it, I think. And while they could have been, the crowd was pretty idle otherwise, I think overall the match was pretty good in my eyes.
If WWF during this era, and you can probably kind of mirror it to what they just did in 2020, there's just so many of these that they all just blend together and they lost so much meaning.
Yeah, agreed.
And so if that didn't happen, then maybe even I would have liked this more. The pace was slow. There were some cool spots. Couldn't really get into it. The definitely the feud was nothing to write home about.
No. At
least Christian with his big ego, and Christian had a good character. The music threw me off. I remember the whole Christian.
That's good shit. That's such good shit, pal.
The music.
Oh, fuck you. That's the worst opinion you've had.
Fucking trash. What was good was Edge coming out to Rob Zombie like I was playing Twisted Metal 3 all over again.
Oh my god, so good. So good.
I am the one.
I think Edge actually has said that he hated that theme song.
I don't blame him.
What? Get your ass out of here. That shit is hype as hell. Never gonna stop me. How can you not just like want to run through a wall when you hear that?
I was definitely laughing along.
It fit the time. It fit the time.
No, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. It's funny in hindsight, that's for sure.
Yeah. I did like the finish though. I love the finish. So Christian, so they have like 2 or 3 ladders set up in the middle of the ring. Christian is climbing 2 of them to try to get the title, obviously. And that's another reason I really like this match. And that's a thing you don't see a lot in modern ladder matches, is because modern ladder matches can be just a lot of spots for the sake of spots. Whereas this match, it felt like both guys were always trying to get the title. And they were always
that is something
selling.
that gets lost a lot in the modern era, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And, the selling was great. So it felt like, it's like a meme now, how slow people climb ladders in wrestling, but it almost felt like it fit in this match. Just based on
it's because
the
they
selling.
actually beat the shit out of each other before attempting to climb.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, like I was saying, the end of this match comes when Christian's climbing the ladder. Edge has a chair shot to the gooch. And which is how Christian won their previous match at Unforgiven. So that was a little callback there. And then speaking of callbacks, Christian is now lying face first on top of the 3 ladders, I believe it was.
Yep.
Edge slides a chair underneath Christian's face and hits a one-man concerto on top of the ladders, which is very contrived, but I don't know. The visual was just badass to me.
Very cool.
And then Christian just kind of sloths off and Edge grabs the title. So great finish. Like I said, I think we both agree the pace could have been a little faster, but I think all in all, it was methodical for a reason.
Yeah. So if memory serves, this isn't the end of the feud, and nor did it feel like it with the way it was built, but the finish could not have been more final with how they presented it. It all comes across very strange in the end, and you at least I would leave with mixed feelings.
Yeah, I do think it is the end. I mean, maybe they have some sort of match on Raw or something, but as far as pay-per-views, I believe this is the end. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't quite remember myself, but something I remember something about this match in the feud just not being over in a way. It's kind of like how the Hardys would feud, and then it's like they'd feud, get back together, they botch it. There seems to be a theme with that in WWF. Anyways,
yeah, yeah, it's weird because so as far as the feud of it goes, they, as a team, they kind of peaked at WrestleMania. And then especially once Edge won the King of the Ring, they were kind of done being a full-time tag team, or at least that's how I kind of perceived it. So once the breakup happened, it almost seemed like, okay, you guys were already separate. You know what I mean? And then it kind of felt rushed once they started it. Plus you have 9/11 in there kind of messing things up. I'm not going to blame it on 9/11, but that's another aspect of it. Plus the invasion. I think there was just a lot of ingredients that were a lot of wrong ingredients involved and a lot of missing ingredients involved. But I don't know. The match was good. So, and they're back together in 20 years later, it was crazy. I think I tweeted this out, but I watched this match on the same day where Christian came back. So it was crazy to start my day watching these guys, their culmination of their feud against each other. And now they're back together 20 years later, which is insane. But
it's a good feel good story.
Warms my cockles.
Yeah, it just makes you worried about anyways, that's a different topic.
That's a different podcast all on itself.
That's a different podcast, yeah.
I know where you're going. I can hear your gears moving, but we're just going to have to stop those gears right now because we got to talk about Tajiri.
Dude, Tajiri's awesome.
Tajiri rules. Tajiri is
not in 2021.
Favorites.
Tajiri sucks in 2021.
Is he still wrestling?
He is Booker Man in All Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh,
he sucks.
Not enjoying his work.
Oh no.
Oh no. But man, he can kick somebody's head off, if nothing else.
I mean, he could get his ass kicked. Tajiri did 5 moves in this match.
That was literally, so we mentioned this earlier. The WWF Tag Team titles are on the line. The champions, the Dudley Boys, of the Alliance are the WWF Tag Team Champions
Right.
versus the team of Tajiri and Big Show.
Right.
So
Big Show is fucking fat.
he's a big boy. He's a girthy fella.
Yeah.
But weirdly, like, so there was
He did 5 moves too, and then got kicked out of the match.
Yeah. So they were doing this weird thing for a little
This match
bit where
sucked.
where Big Show and Spike Dudley were teaming for a little bit. But then I don't know if Spike got actually injured or if he just like lost momentum and they just kind of switched him out with Tajiri. I don't know exactly why.
Probably.
They went that route. Maybe, I mean, Tajiri was definitely more over at this point than Spike was.
Because he's foreign, and that's funny.
Hell yeah, he's Japanese. Give him some sushi or something. That's Vince McMahon, not me.
I believe it.
And and then so yeah, that's really no backstory to this match. It's just kind of a tag title match for the sake of, you know, titles.
Why was this on a pay-per-view?
And it's funny because all of these guys, so the Dudley Boys, Tajiri, and Big Show are arguably all these guys should be on the Alliance. But
Correct.
Here they are fighting for a WWF sanctioned title.
Yeah. You know how easy it would have been to do an invasion storyline, and if you're going to do any turns, it's a slow build towards like all these former WCW stars or people that just couldn't make it in WC, like Jericho, the Giant, Big Show are two names that are on this card that really would have stood out. But nah, we're gonna make the Dudley Boys and Christian.
Yeah, that's like
The Rock. Because when I think WCW, I think Rock and Austin. Good God.
Well, hey, are you suggesting just because he's the WCW champion that he's on the side of WCW? That's silly talk.
You're right. How foolish of me.
You sound ridiculous right now. God, but yeah. So like you said, Tajiri pretty much just gets his shit kicked in the whole match by the Dudley Boys. Because small, and at some point
the format was atrocious. Tajiri gets his shit kicked. He does 4 moves to make the hot tag to Big Show, who comes in and does clotheslines, and then he does the Scott Hall, and then he gets punted, booted out of the ring. Tajiri tags in, does 1 move, and gets pinned.
This is what a weird time for the Big Show, man. This is like undercard Big Show, undercard fat Big Show.
Oh, he was the fat show. I believe they even did a storyline of it too. At some point.
I'm sure. What didn't they do with Big Show? They threw everything at the fucking wall with him.
It's a shame he wasn't against Bray Wyatt. He could have died in a swamp.
Please don't put that in the universe. Bray Wyatt versus Big Show.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
We already basically got that, okay, with Braun Strowman for all intents and purposes.
You're absolutely right.
But yeah, like you said, Tajiri doesn't do anything. Big Show comes in, does some rah stuff. Tajiri at some point accidentally he shoots his green mist at one of the Dudley Boys, but misses and hits the ref.
Because of course he does.
Because he's Japanese. And then Tajiri, so the ref is out because 2001. Rhino comes in, gores the Big Show.
That's what happened. That's right, yeah.
That's a gore for you, if nothing else. But then so Big Show's basically taken out of the match at that point. Tajiri goes for a buzzsaw kick. He hits it for a near fall, but then
his 5th move. Yep.
Ultimately doesn't matter. 3D on Tajiri for the win. Dudley Boys retain their WWF tag titles. This match is like, who gives a fuck? But like, it picked up at the end. It was pretty entertaining at the end, but ultimately it was kind of a who gives a fuck kind of deal here.
Oh, the crowd absolutely agrees too.
Yeah.
The St. Louis crowd. A lot of references to old St. Louis territories by JR on the show.
Oh God. Enough, JR. We got it. Fern Gagne or whoever it was.
Oh, we're gonna get a lot of Sam Mushnick Houston references.
Because if anybody's over in 2001, it's Sam Mushnick.
That's right. Battle of the Houstonians.
Man, but that's what's coming up here. Booker T versus Booger Red. It's good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not feeling it.
That's what JR called him. That wasn't me. That was a thing they were trying for a little bit, and then thankfully they stopped.
Oh, I forgot to mention what good old JR said in the ladder match.
Oh, what was it?
He goes, Edge is going to have to make sure he's not molested as he climbs up the ladder.
Molested means bothered.
Yeah. This just really stuck out. I'm like, oh, okay.
No one wants to be bothered on a ladder, okay?
I wouldn't use that word, but good. You do you, JR.
Well, he's a professional. He's the broadcaster here,
That's
not
right. He's got the job, not me.
Exactly.
Who am I to disagree with that? I was like, man, this is why this guy gets the big money.
Yeah. But speaking of molesting, Undertaker's here to molest more of the WCW guys.
Oh, did he? The end of this. Okay.
Well, so there's
vroom vroom, keep rolling. Hands up, hands down.
That's good, right?
Fucking dying when I heard that music. It's like boom, keep rolling. And he comes out on his little tricycle, thinks he's so cool, being from Texas and Houston, and Booker T's out. He's like, yeah, I'm WCW. This isn't gonna end well.
Are you burying Limp Bizkit on my podcast?
I would never do such a thing. I love eating
Goddamn
chocolate
right.
starfishes.
Okay, anyways. You ever just have too many jokes in your head and you just short circuit a little bit?
Oh, all the time. This dude was buried 6 feet under.
Hey, his Spinner-Rooney got a big pop.
Oh, he did. Okay.
The most electrifying move in sports entertainment, the Spinner-Rooney. It was good.
Yeah.
Really devastating.
That was his highlight in 2001, wasn't it?
Man, either that or getting beat up in a grocery store by Stone Cold.
Didn't that happen in 2002? It definitely happened after the whole invasion thing ended.
Something tells me it was in December, but it was on the line there for sure. But so there's 3 things you don't do in wrestling. You don't try to powerbomb Billy Kidman.
Right, correct.
You don't try to do a springboard at Randy Orton.
Also correct. And
you don't mount punches in the corner versus The Undertaker.
You do not do that, no. Amateur mistake by Booker T. Yeah.
Very, very amateur mistake.
Although I believe Billy Kidman in his first ever match in WWF, I think he was against Kane, was he not? Where Kane goes to powerbomb him and he actually does it.
Wow, I need to go revisit that because that's a legendary moment if true.
I think that was like his first match in WWF, and it was on TV, and Kane just power bombs him, and I remember as a kid going, well, "That's not supposed to happen."
Your brain just turned into a pretzel as you saw that.
This is wrong.
Billy Kidman doesn't know how to bump for it.
Maybe in hindsight, that was the first sign that this invasion wasn't going to work out.
That was, if Billy Kidman would have just countered it, who knows what could have changed.
Maybe Sean Stasiak would have been over.
No.
You
won't go that far.
Meat. He was meat, right? I think he was meat.
Was he meat? Of course he was meat. Meat, if you're listening to this, fuck you.
Oh, okay.
Which I hope he isn't because we bury him a lot here. Anyways.
You bury Sean Stasiak? Come on, I don't believe it.
Nah, he buries himself. Fucking meat. But speaking of burying, we have Undertaker burying. No, what's up?
JR referenced a buried alive match like 6 times in this match. It's so apropos. It's just
did he?
This is the anniversary of Undertaker's first ever buried alive match. Undertaker might if Undertaker isn't able to take care of Booker T here, he might have to take him to a graveyard. Like there was just so many weird references. Yeah, during the match because it was like the anniversary, and then when Booker T has all this momentum, goes to punch Undertaker in the corner, he just gets power bombed and loses.
Goodbye, go home.
Just get the fuck out of here. And as soon as I just cracked up laughing. I mean, obviously as a kid I was furious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was just like, man, what a horrible way for this to go. Because out of all the WCW guys, like Booker T was like the one hope left.
Yeah.
He gets in the storyline with The Undertaker. 1, 2, 3, keep rolling. Just immediately. Well, yeah, it's very appropriate music.
They were ready for Booker T to lose. They
Man,
had their finger on the button.
I don't know how Booker T got survived. I don't know how he survived out of this.
Where else is he gonna go? Fucking TNA?
Well, not yet.
Yeah. Fucking what was his commentator name? Black Snow.
I remember him on commentary. I remember he would get in matches and self-commentate.
Yes. He had his headset on. Oh, Booker T's kicking him at the corner. Oh, yeah, he's gonna get him. Oh.
Fucking TNA's horrible.
That's one of my favorite things that's ever happened in wrestling.
Oh yeah.
But so yeah, Booker T's dead. Rolling. Keeps on rolling. And then keeping on rolling to the go ahead.
So there were 24 guys, wrestlers. I'm not counting the women that were signed from WCW. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In this invasion storyline. You know how many were on this card? Just 4 pay-per-views in.
How many?
3.
Ooh.
Booker
well, at least
T,
we have. Oh, never mind.
Lance Storm and the Hurricane. That's it. That is it.
I mean, when you build your Mount Rushmore of WCW, those are probably 3 of the 4, right?
I mean, maybe 2000 to 2001, maybe.
Who needs Goldberg when you have fucking Chavo Guerrero and Raven?
I was a big Raven fan for WCW. I'm watching 99 WCW, and Raven's the only shining beacon of.
I thought you were about to say for WWF. I was like, oh, sir, you're watching something very different than I am.
You'd be correct.
So don't worry, folks. I know you've had too many WCW wrestlers on your show so far, so we're going to have you a WCW championship match between 2 WWF guys.
Fun.
Chris Jericho versus The Rock. Man, oh man. So I didn't really take a lot of notes on this match, but it was a damn good match.
It's fucking awesome. Except the finish.
Well, you don't like the clean finish?
Define clean.
It was about as clean as it gets in this era.
Dude. I like shorts. Okay. I remember absolutely loving this match as a kid. Because I was a huge Chris Jericho fan. My favorite wrestler in 2001. For a while in the late 90s, early 2000s was Chris Jericho was my guy, right?
Right.
And the whole storyline of he can't win the big one, and The Rock's here, and I fucking hated The Rock because he was a pompous piece of shit, and he went to Hollywood, and I was so into this match, and then they showed me the build, and everything was just flowing back. I'm like, oh my God, I remember my childhood feelings. I was way into it. The match happens. The match is even better than I remember, because now I'm a more seasoned wrestling fan, not a 13-year-old just marking out child to it all, and everything's happening. They do the people elbow spots. Jericho reverses into the walls of Jericho. I think he's gonna fucking tap out clean. I'm just going into it. I'm like, yeah, come on, Jericho, you can do it. I really got into this. And fucking Stephanie McMahon comes out. I thought my brain just got hit over the head with a frying pan. My brain went to mush, and it just went, what is she doing here? What is happening? What is it? And then I just go silent.
Stephanie, Christ, she just gets worse the more I watch her. So she, like you said, these guys had a great match. But towards the end, Stephanie McMahon comes down to the ring with a chair. She slides the chair in the ring. Now, because we all know subtlety is her strong suit, right? So she slides the chair in the ring. And these are 2 baby faces for all intents and purposes in the ring. But it has to be made clear that Stephanie just hates Jericho. So how does she portray that? By getting on the apron and yelling, Rocky, Rocky, doing the fist pump thing, because it has to be beat over the head. You have to beat all your audience over the head with it, that you're not here to support Rock per se, rather than you are to kind of fuck over Jericho, I guess. So that happens. So the chair's in the ring. And then at some point, Jericho hits, I think he ends up calling it the breakdown or something, which is essentially a skull-crushing finale, onto the chair. And Jericho, I have zero recollection of this. Jericho wins the WCW title.
Oh, yeah. It was supposed to be a massive crowning moment.
Right.
That because this finish was so ungodly terrible and botched that nobody remembers it. And the crowd had no reaction to it. This crowd was going so insane during this match in the climax. Like, imagine when Jericho had The Rock in the walls of Jericho and he pulls him back to the center of the ring and The Rock taps out. Just imagine if that, like, because in my head, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, yeah. Stephanie McMahon, what are you doing? What is happening?
Because like the story was more on Stephanie than Jericho.
Yeah, it totally overshadowed everything. And and even after the match, when Jericho's like in the celebration mode, The Rock's behind him doing the best facial expressions. It's fucking Hollywood acting like to a T there.
Smolder.
And yeah, oh yeah, and he's like looking at him, squinting. He's tilting his head. Like everything's so perfect. He looks like he's just gonna whoop Jericho's ass, and he just kind of goes, "Yeah, you won." Like what the fuck was that?
I didn't understand the significance of him handing him the chair.
It's like, you beat me, son. You're the one that's over now. And the crowd had no idea. I had no idea. I don't know what was going on. It was so it's one of the worst finishes I can remember seeing and trying to get someone over. Like it actually did the opposite at the end of the day. It just looked like Chris Jericho. Yeah, he indeed could not win the big one. It doesn't even feel like I believe he loses the title like tomorrow or something.
Right, that's what I'm saying, because Rock goes into Survivor Series, which is the next pay-per-view. He goes into that pay-per-view as the WCW champion. So in my mind, I was watching this match, I was like, okay, yeah, Rock wins the match. But then once Jericho won, I was like, holy shit. But yeah, the crowd, I think even I was confused watching this. It's like, how are you supposed to react to Chris Jericho at this point? Because he's been a babyface all year, but he's kind of having tinges of turning. Not necessarily joining the alliance or anything, but he's kind of has a new attitude, especially with the finish, him using the chair that Stephanie ended up sliding in. So it was almost like the crowd didn't know, like, wait, is Stephanie aligning with Jericho here? Or is like, and like when The Rock handed Jericho, like cat fucking jumps on me, as when Rock handed Jericho the chair, I couldn't tell if that was like a passing the torch thing or if that was like Rock basically saying, hey, you needed this chair to beat me. We'll do this again soon. Which are like polar opposite things. And I was like, I didn't know which one it was. And commentary didn't really explain it either. It was a mess.
Oh, it was an absolute failure. And like, if you were to put a 5-star or 4.25, any of these star ratings, this match is absolutely 100% like way up there in what two guys going out there and killing it with a great story and emotional investment to see a finish. Like this is why I if a finish is so bad or even so good, it does matter in how you perceive a match and how it sticks into your head throughout years to come. And this is an egregious example of that. So disappointing.
Yeah, because that's what you remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my brain I melted down. I melted into the couch. Like I don't even want to watch the rest of the pay-per-view anymore. That's how furious I was.
Well, don't worry. We got something a little bit more palatable and easy to understand next.
Yes, but fucking Vince McMahon. This fucking guy. I mean, the whole pay-per-view like started off, nothing's gonna end until I get involved. Great.
Especially with hindsight, knowing where they would go with this, like post invasion or even like in the build up to Survivor Series. It's just, man, what a web. So we have the WWF Championship on the line in a triple threat match. We have the champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin, versus RVD versus Kurt Angle. So the previous pay-per-view was Unforgiven, and that was the pay-per-view where Kurt Angle won the title from Stone Cold, but we had all the, Stone Cold had his hand under the rope deal and ended up doing all right. me get my fucking cat out of here.
Invasion of the pussies. Got a good pop out of that one.
Don't want him to shit all over my floor or anything. But speaking of shitting all over the floor,
you can just watch WWF for that to happen.
We're having fun. So yeah, Stone Cold's champion. Won it back from Kurt Angle on Raw a few weeks ago. I believe it was due to interference from RVD, if I remember correctly. But this is a period of time, we touched on it earlier, where RVD was getting over just purely organically. In his matches with Jeff Hardy, his match with Chris Jericho at the last pay-per-view, on all the TVs in between. RVD is super over.
Got to put a stop to that, brother.
Can't no more. You've had a lot of good matches, kid, but we're gonna now throw you a win with 2001 Stone Cold.
We're gonna put you in a scenario where we're gonna make you realize how humble you must be.
Exactly. Really iron cheeked him.
Good God. Yeah, dude, Rob Van Dam was ungodly over, and he's he's just getting bigger. And any book you read of this era and what the locker room and so many guys were talking about at the time, RVD was what they were afraid of, right?
Yeah.
Was this outsider, if you will, coming into their locker room and getting more over than them.
Can't have that.
Can't have that at all. Even though, like, guys like if you read kind of what Lance Storm and their personalities were, they're like, we work for you now.
Yeah.
Like, what? If
even
we get over, then we're all gonna make more money. Like,
right.
But that wasn't the attitude with the WWF locker room with all the originals, because Chris Jericho himself said it took him a long time to acclimate to that attitude that the locker room had. Yeah, it's very fascinating, kind of from the insider perspective, and you realize, like, when you watch this in real time, and this kind of came back to me too, it just gets you to question, like, Booker T was over when he first came in. Why did it take him so long to get to the top? RVD was arguably the most over guy in the company, next to your biggest stars, Rock Austin, for example. And yet it took him how long for them to get the actual final crowning achievement?
Yeah, and even someone like Hurricane, who got over, is like, okay, we're gonna put a stupid mask on you and give you a cape. So make do with that.
And we'll give you the Huracycle and kidnap women. That'll get you super over. Well, it's 2001, so it actually does. So.
It's it. But yeah, so we have Stone Cold. So Stone Cold and Kurt Angle have been feuding for a long time. Pretty self-explanatory there. They're kind of the heads of the Alliance and WWF, respectively, at this point, which is hilarious because it's very soon after this where Kurt joins the Alliance. I think more in like a mole kind of element, if I remember correctly. I don't really remember exactly.
More bullshit. You can say it.
Right, yeah, because he joins, quote unquote, but then he turns on Austin at Survivor Series. It's that whole thing.
I did really like the RVD incorporation to all this. How he would frog splash Angle and gets on Austin's good side, but then they're booking him into the match, and RVD is not going to pass up a chance like this, right? And then that only makes Austin mad because he's the super heel. Obviously, I'm ignoring a lot of the issues with Austin turning back and forth and Angle turning and all these other guys. Like, if you take it at, this is where I will agree with you. Like, there are some of these things at face value that are really good.
Yeah.
It's when you start, it's like you got a red velvet cake, right? But the inside is filled with shit.
Oh.
So you just kind of scrape the surface and you go, that's a damn good red velvet cake. But then there's poop on the inside. And you go, well, I can't eat that anymore. I now realize the rest of the cake is garbage.
Why is red velvet like your go-to flavor?
I don't know.
What a weird... I think it says a lot about your personality.
I like red velvet cake. Wait, you telling me you don't like red velvet cake?
I'm gonna. It's fine, I guess. Like, if that's like the only cake available, I'll eat it. But it's like, man,
What
I'm
would
going
be
to
your
a cake
cake in this
store.
scenario?
Probably like an ice cream cake of sorts. Maybe just like a chocolate vanilla.
Why not just
kind
eat
of
ice
deal.
cream at that point? Why would you eat an ice cream cake?
Would you shut the fuck up, okay?
I feel like I'm hitting a nerve here.
Can I talk to you for a second? Can you come over here? Can you come over here? Let me talk to you a second.
No,
What are you doing?
I'm gonna
the
pull
fuck you
Stone
doing?
Cold Steve Austin promo, and I'm gonna hide behind a door.
You're making me look ridiculous over here. What? I'm gonna need you to chill out, all right?
I'm gonna hide behind a door, cut a promo, and tell my woman to repeat that back for me.
What? What? Okay. Oh god.
The crowd was saying that a little bit at this time. They were starting to do that.
They were figuring it out still. It was more of like a what, rather than a what, like after every sentence kind of thing.
So here's a question then.
3 inches flaccid, 15 erect.
Interesting. Okay. Not bad.
Thanks.
Grower, not a shower. It's fine.
Absolutely.
Do you think when fans come back, they're going to hop on that again? Or do you think that's now disappeared?
My initial reaction is to say yes, but I'm almost wondering, like, is that like dying out as far like from a generational standpoint? Like, do the people watching, like even like the teenagers watching nowadays, even know what that is?
Well, don't be ridiculous. Teenagers aren't watching WWE.
How dare you?
That's why it's still going.
And no, it's people from 18 to 45 or whatever it is aren't watching. It's you know, you still have 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds watching.
Nah, not so.
Don't maybe get all Dave Meltzer on you.
We'd have to look at the numbers. I think it's still gonna happen.
What chance?
Yeah.
I'm surprised
I think they're salivating at the moment that they get to troll some more and hate on some shitty booking and interference, because fucking interference all over this fucking show is so aggravating.
At least there wasn't
single match.
At least there wasn't any in this match, right?
There was the only match that was clean was the lingerie match.
And that was, I mean, clean is a very, you know, I don't know if that's the word to use.
Well, I didn't feel dirty, that's for sure.
Well, then you weren't watching it like I was watching it.
I got nice and sparkly, got that lotion, I got the stiff drink. I was primed and ready for this main event.
Yeah, there's something stiff. Stone Cold RVD. Oh man. So yeah, we have a triple threat here for the title. Yeah, like I said, basically, so we have Stone Cold and Kurt Angle had been feuding for months before this, and then RVD comes into the picture because the fans are really getting behind him, and he's a part of the Alliance, which is a heel faction, but RVD is essentially, you know, a babyface, so he's kind of like, does Stone Cold trust him? Does he not? So they have a whole internal thing there, and then Mick Foley comes back as commissioner and makes this a triple threat match because he likes what RVD is doing. And I guess he's trying to break down the Alliance from within, I guess is essentially how there's a lot of hoo-ha and other shenanigans that happened for this match to come up to be a thing, but that's basically the backstory here. And so the match starts. First of all, it's kind of a shortish match. A lot of, like, you know, as per any Stone Cold match, there's a lot of like calling it in the ring type of spots in the beginning. It felt, I don't even want to say sloppy. It felt like there was some urgency between everybody in the beginning. It didn't feel like overly choreographed, which I liked.
Well, I like three-ways like this where, I mean, we all like three-ways if we get that opportunity.
Of course.
But I like, you see this in Dragon Gate a lot. To make a promotion, because they do a lot of kind of triple threat situations.
Mm-hmm.
They like making it feel different because it gets a little whacked out at times because three people are always in the ring, right?
Yeah.
And it if a guy goes out, it's later in the match because they've finally taken enough damage kind of situation. That's what we got here. It was a you know, we got some sloppy seconds going on at the start. And who doesn't like sloppy seconds? I mean, it's fine. You know, you take what you can get sometimes.
But, you know,
you
gotta do what you gotta do.
You would like a singles match, but, you know, sloppy seconds. You know, you get that second try. Maybe, you know, come in. You last a little longer,
so to speak.
so to speak. Yeah, exactly. I think
Come in there
I think
and-
these references are jiving right now.
They're doing something.
Yeah, RVD was always a house of fire. Like the difference in styles was really cool, and that was something all over the show, which made at least the matches all click in their own way. Even the one I liked the least, which was that Dudley Boys tag. Like everybody is from somewhere else. They all learned a different style. They've all come up differently. They all, Jericho's a little bit more technical. The Rock is a homegrown guy. Austin's a brawler. Angle's the wrestler. RVD's the high flying kicking guy. Not everybody is so homogenized with one style, and that's what kept me kind of invested in and not hating on any match in particular with what they were doing, right?
Yeah.
So it all came down to that kind of, and that's what made me remember what this era was so interesting and good. Was obviously all the characters involved were great, but just how they knew who they were and the mixture of those styles just molded into just fun matches.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. 2001 is definitely where there's a lot more emphasis on the in-ring aspect of it. There's less, people getting embalmed and less people getting set on fire and shit like that. And there's a lot more, like you said, not zero, less.
Okay. You're right. I shouldn't have questioned.
Exactly.
I apologize.
But yeah, like in the beginning of the year, you have like Benoit and Angle have a bunch of matches, and you have RVD and Jericho there. Tajiri comes in, like all these, and you have like the cruiserweight division like starting to kind of form a little bit, even though it's not really a thing at this point.
No, it'll never be a thing.
It was a thing for a very
Sunday night heat thing is not a thing.
Hey, I always watch Jamie Noble on Velocity, so you can go fuck yourself.
Ooh, Velocity guy. Okay.
I'm a big Velocity guy. I love me some Bill DeMont.
Gonna start your Velocity podcast next?
Maybe. Watch me do it.
I dare you.
Just in spite of you.
Sort of Velocity podcasts are like 5-minute episodes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Jamie Noble, and we'll see you next time.
So the Basham brothers are out. Fuck that. But yeah, the Basham brothers were not here.
Podcast idea.
Yeah.
And welcome to the Velocity podcast.
Oh man, but yeah, the match here, pretty good match. Definitely, triple threats are pretty high paced by nature. There's a spot towards the end where both Stone Cold and Kurt Angle are laid out. RVD's on the corner looking to frog splash somebody. So he essentially does his 5-star frog splash, like in between them. Both guys get out of the way and he just splats. I thought that was a pretty cool spot.
Yeah, that was cool.
Exactly.
Well, it played into the whole storyline of him frog splashing both guys over the course of weeks. Continuity storytelling, and then it came into the match. What do you know?
A broken clock's right twice a day. So yeah, and the basic story, RVD, is pretty much centered around RVD and who he's going to side with, and ultimately he doesn't really make that choice, but because towards the end,
oh no,
so Kurt hits a bunch of suplexes on RVD, hits the Angle slam, but Shane McMahon comes in. Wait, was that before or after Vince came in with the chair? That was after. I think I skipped over.
Shane came in after because Vince saunters down to the ring and the camera keeps panning on him. He's got that like his little back neck cocked head pose that he does, and he kind of bugs his eyes out a little bit because Vince is a character.
So good.
All this awesome action is going on in the ring, and it just keeps going back to Vince McMahon because remember, this night isn't going to end until I get involved. You piece of shit, get the fuck out of here. I don't want your face here. You're ruining this match. You're ruining everything. And he fucking gets all the way down the ring, and he's going to do stuff because he's Vince McMahon. You like that description?
I hated it.
You hated it. Yeah. So, and then what I can't remember is if the chair shot because he whacks the fuck out of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That was brutal. That was a damn good chair shot.
He fucking cracks him hard way in the back of the head. The psycho. Yeah. And they were complaining RVD was a little stiff.
But at least, it's not like Austin has neck issues or anything, so it's fine.
No, come on. That was storyline.
We don't talk about old shit here, okay? We'll get over it. All right? All right, bud?
Yeah, that was years ago. Come on.
Yeah. One little Owen Hart falling on your neck. Get over it.
What are you talking about? It was Rikishi who did it.
Oh, sorry. My mistake.
Come
No,
on.
it was Triple H. Triple H made him, though.
Triple H did convince him. Yeah, it's always about Triple H.
Always. It
Never
always comes back.
I did it for
yes.
The Rock, but actually Triple H.
Man, Rikishi, I don't even know where Rikishi is at this point. He might be injured, or he might just
Disappeared.
might just be gone. Yeah, I think he might be even like in like OVW or something, fine tuning some things.
Right, training all those people, training all those people that aren't there right now,
Yeah, exactly.
that you won't see on TV.
But yeah, like you mentioned, Vince cracks Steve in the back of the head with a chair.
Fucking bleeding everywhere. Poor guy.
Kurt hits all those suplexes on the RVD. He has him pinned, but that damn Shane McMahon comes out to break up the pin. And there's no disqualifications, by the way, for anybody keeping score at home.
Yeah, they were very specific about that. And yeah, like why would a 3-way not be no DQ? Anyways, whatever. Exactly. I guess.
But man, I popped big for this. I'm not gonna lie. Vince chases Shane around the ring and spears him over the announce table.
Yeah, and they almost fucking missed the finish where Steve Austin stuns RVD and pins him.
Yep.
Because they were too busy looking at. Yeah, they were too busy looking at the McMahons Dark Order punch each other.
Yeah. But yes, that's pretty much what it amounts to. Is Stone Cold hits the stunner, like you mentioned, on the RVD, middle of the ring, pins him 1, 2, 3. And I'm thinking of this just now, but you know, if you're watching this, like I said, if you don't know what happens after this, they're building up to Vince, like, oh, he's gonna. I forget what the exact wordage was, but he's gonna make an impact on the main event. And you hear that again, not knowing what's gonna happen. What if Vince like turned on Kurt Angle and joined the alliance? That would have just been the icing on the cake.
I wouldn't put it past him. This dude was just changing so many things just week in and week out. You know,
yeah.
We're talking about the same guy who's like, the NWO ruined one company. I'm going to do a storyline where I'm going to ruin my own.
They're the poison.
Jesus Christ.
That's another thing I've never like watched, but I've seen like little vignettes here and there, but I can't wait to get to that point.
It was me, Austin. Excited. It was me all along.
Yeah, you're right. Now that you say that, that wouldn't have been the craziest thing that they've done with Vince.
I mean, that just shows the storytelling elements here. There's some good things sprinkled in, like the Jericho Rock, but then they just constantly get too cute for their own good all the time. It really just reminded me of my frustration as a fan and why I just slowly kind of trickled away to TNA. And well, that's a different mental breakdown in itself. Yeah. Another podcast.
But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of good stuff on this show. And I mean, because like you said, there's Rock and Jericho. You got RVD in the main event, which is always good. Tajiri's there. Edge and Christian was great.
Lingerie.
Tits. You got tits and ass. Speaking of TNA, you got some of that on you. There's something for everybody here. That's a pretty good thing that WWE was hitting in 2001. If nothing else,
it certainly wasn't any WCW. They didn't mention it one fucking time on the show unless it was a title name.
Nope, we're done with that. WCW's done.
Yeah, we're done. We're
the alliance. We're the alliance, pal.
The alliance. Oh yeah, way better.
Because there was like, looking at this show, a lot of good stuff, but ultimately, No Mercy 2001 is kind of a inconsequential pay-per-view in the grand scheme of things.
Oh yeah, like I believe everything that happened on this night like meant nothing within 2 weeks.
Yeah, because like Edge and Christian, okay, that's the culmination of their storyline. The feud was what it was, and it was pretty short, but it's still at least some sort of like finality to something. Jericho and Rock could have, it's foreshadowing to some future Jericho Stephanie stuff, I guess, even though they probably didn't have that in mind at the time, but it is in hindsight. RVD, I mean, I don't know. It was a good show. I enjoyed watching it. I mean, it's not a
Aha.
show I would like recommend. What you got?
Rebellion, Edge and Christian.
That doesn't count. Those aren't canon.
Are you sure?
That was a UK pay-per-view, I believe. Which I forgot happened until you just said that. So I'll actually probably go watch that just to see what happened there.
I think.
Well, they had like a cage match at that show, didn't they?
Yes. So
Right, yeah.
Edge and Christian are still in a feud, but they throw Test involved as well. And as they go into November, Christian is still involved.
Yeah. I believe you. Because I guess that's where the Un-American starts, right?
Oh, that's right.
Lance Storm and William Regal, I believe, is involved too. Some good stuff, right?
Kind of rings a bell.
Foreign. That was where the only like segment of theirs I remember is it was like later in 2002 when Kane returned from injury and he just shit all over him and did a Kane-a-Rooney in the middle of the ring.
Oh no.
And he saved them because the Un-Americans were about to burn an American flag in the middle of the ring. That's the only thing about the Un-Americans that I really remember. So can't wait to get into that in 2002. But yeah, No Mercy 2001. You got any other any other comments? I think we pretty much covered a lot of the stuff in this era.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think some good stuff on this show, but ultimately it was like the storylines unfortunately really hindered a lot of stuff and ultimately didn't really matter. I think they're pretty much just crawling to Survivor Series at this point. I think they had it in mind that, okay, we're going to end this at Survivor Series. Let's just get there.
I don't think that was the original plan at all.
I disagree. I totally think because that's such like a on the nose, like it's almost obvious kind of culmination in my eyes.
There's no way the original idea was to have an invasion only last 6 months.
I think 6 months is a long time for a storyline.
Dude. Okay. No, not at all. There was an invasion storyline in New Japan in the early 90s, just as an example, that went 2.5 years, which you could argue is too long, but they managed to put different kind of groups and elements from the other promotion into it to make it last as long. So you were always seeing fresh and new talent kind of go back and forth, and people were going over, and it made many big main events going forward. 6 months is not a long time for
an active, because what you're describing sounds like more of a passive, like background kind of thing that's happening, whereas this is like invasion, like it's beat over the head. It beats you over the head with it every Raw and every SmackDown that you watch. And it should be noted because it kind of ties in with that. The original idea, like if you read any books about this, I just read JR's book recently, and he was a big part of the booking. Not the booking.
Oh, Under the Black Hat.
Yeah,
that was a good book.
Yeah.
I like that one.
It was a great book. And he talks a lot about the invasion and how the original idea was basically to have two brands. So like we eventually would have Raw and SmackDown. It would essentially be WWE and WCW. So
good idea.
With that being the original plan, I agree with you that wasn't the original plan for it to culminate at Survivor Series. But I believe once they figured out that wasn't going to work with Buff Bagwell and Booker T and all that shit.
Well, they gave up on it before they even gave it a try.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then one thing after another just kept amplifying up plans clearly way earlier than they wanted, over and over and over again, and then constantly switching characters and switching sides and switching titles. There's no way all this was made for any sort of long-term booking. It was absolutely by week to week. So I
right,
totally
which is why I say 6 months is a long time with that mentality.
Oh well, in that sense, even 3 months would have been too long.
But yeah, exactly.
I really say I forget when the date was when that ECW turn happened, where they all kind of turn in the ring that night. Was that July or August or something? To me, that was the night where it all ended.
Right.
That's when they really just gave up.
If they would have had the resources or whatever it took to get those resources, and if they would have obviously booked it better, kept that line in the sand prominent, and they stayed true to that, it's something that could have lasted much longer than it did. But given the circumstances and given the approach they took to it, 6 months was overdoing it in my point of view. Especially watching all these back. Unforgiven and No Mercy were kind of like, who gives a fuck pay-per-views in the grand scheme of things? And yeah, I mean, was
look
just
at
so
this.
like,
They had already given up by this point.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
which is why they're crawling at this point. They're literally just to have this as a placeholder for Survivor Series.
All right. Well, with that verbiage, I do agree with you.
Yeah, I think we have the same opinion. We're just looking at it differently. We're skinning the cat. I'm skinning it from its asshole, and you're skinning it from its nipples.
I was gonna go taint, but okay, yeah. All right.
Oh, that's too close to the asshole.
You think that's too close?
I don't know how you get closer.
Maybe you. Weird visuals. Weird visuals going on here. I felt like Stephanie McMahon just ran into my head.
Yeah, screaming and bad acting just entered your ears. But yeah, man. So I hear you got a podcast over there yourself.
Yeah, Red Leaf Retrocast, gaming, anime, and a lot of wrestling. Do a lot of historical stuff with women's wrestling, All Japan Women, New Japan, and I don't know why I'm doing it to myself, but WCW in '99 is the current
Hell
year.
yeah, brother.
I'm in there. I like maybe there's a little masochist in me. Who knows? I did like that cat.
Well, you
cat
knew
tales.
you knew what that. Yes, there you go. Beat me to it.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're on the same mental page going on here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, I do. If you want to learn more about women's wrestling and kind of its historical standpoint, especially now with such a rise in it, then I did start a Patreon that's more or less dedicated to it, where I have to do a lot of tape trading, whether that's virtually or physically from Japan. So that's really what the Patreon is for. And the episodes do go out free 2 weeks later anyways. So you're just helping contribute to the historical significance and doing a lot of the research and putting the time in. So I'm in 2010s, which was coming out of the dark age of women's wrestling. So it didn't just happen in America. It also was happening in Japan because a lot of companies closed down in the late 90s, early 2000s. There are companies popping up and down. So we're friend and I are doing a lot of historical preservation is the word to use for a lot of that. So it's Red Leaf Retrocast. That's what it's for. And we cover 7 promotions on the big main show that we put out every 2 weeks. AEW, DDT, New Japan, Dragon Gate, Stardom, Tokyo Joshi Pro, and Ice Ribbon. So one of my goals of 2021 is to get the word out on Ice Ribbon specifically, because it's one of the better women's promotions out there, and it's big DIY mentality that they got there, and it's just one of those things that don't have a good big backer behind it, big ownership. So they do everything themselves, and I think it puts on the best shows that you could possibly watch if you're a women's wrestling fan. So
hell yeah,
that's what we do over there.
Definitely go check that out. A really unique, because like you said, who else is doing Joshi related podcasts out there?
Yeah, there's not a lot, and we do in the historical significance of it all. You got to preserve things what you're passionate about. So that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So yeah, everybody go check that out. And yeah, man, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Once again, thank you to JD from the Red Leaf Retrocast. Really, really good episode. Had a lot of fun talking about some No Mercy, some good old Invasion, all of our favorites. Like I said in the beginning, check out JD at redleafretrocast.blogspot.com. All of his social media in the description, as always. Find him on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And like he just said, check out his Patreon for a lot of really cool stuff there too. So boy howdy, we had a lot to talk about, but man, yeah, there was a lot of the Invasion. Just there's no shortage of stuff to talk about in regards to that storyline. Just a lot of shit to make fun of, and honestly, some good stuff too. A lot of good stuff came out of it as well, but man, Is there any other storyline that's been rebooked over the years more than this? But we're almost there. We're almost at Survivor Series. And then we are quickly approaching the Ruthless Aggression era. Super pumped to dive into that because that's at least 2002. That's an era that I've never seen, or at least I didn't see live. I have seen some of the shows after the fact, but as far as like TV shows and stuff like that, haven't really gotten into that a lot. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to other stuff we got coming in March next week. As far as, at least as I'm recording this, is the plan. Next week, we'll be having WWF Survivor Series 1994. You thought 01 was coming. You thought we were done with the invasion. Nope. 94. We're going to talk about some Bob Backlund. Then after that, a big change of pace with Progress Chapter 11. One of my favorite promotions to watch, at least in the old stuff. So, and then we'll follow that up with some ROH Unscripted 02. That's where they crown the first ever tag team champions in Ring of Honor. Lots to come in March. Make sure to subscribe if you are not already. Also subscribe to my YouTube. I'm gonna be last week's episode is if you haven't checked that out, the video version is also available with me and Kenny from A Kenny for Your Thoughts. You can see our beautiful mugs on YouTube. And this episode will not be because it's recorded before I started doing video, but we'll be experimenting with that more in the future, both with these podcasts that I'm doing and other live stream kind of stuff. Currently working on upgrading my computer, so that's why that's on hold, but soon to come, everybody. But yeah, that's all Daddy has for you today. Wash your hands, wash your ass, and wash your fucking, I don't know, your penis or something. I feel like I have to have like some sort of dick joke at the end of all these podcasts now. I feel like I leave the audience disappointed if I don't make any phallic references. So there we go. Wash your penis. What am I doing? Thank you guys once again for listening. I'm hard.
Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong.